I'm Jeff, compulsive overeater, and I am at the right place here with GSA. Um, so I've been abstinent for just a bit over 4 years, and I'm going to start with my background story. I think that'll lend a little bit of context to things. Um, Other than growing up in an Irish family with the Irish plague, which many of us know what that is, um, pretty normal. My dad was a World War II vet, came home. Immediately, he and mom started trying to have kids. And I was the oldest of three sons. And we grew up about a block from the Hudson River in upstate New York. Um, really enjoyed living in the same house from the time I was about five until I graduated from high school. So we had a very stable environment there. Dad spent an awful lot of time working on this old house out of the 1800s that need a lot of work. And I got to do things, side by side with him for those things that he thought a little guy could help with. Um, Alcohol was always present, and that's a background here because I learned much later in life that I was an alcoholic, but it was kind of normal in the family I grew up in. And there's something I'll mention a little later about my Uncle Boyd. But so after school, as a munchkin, right? I mean, a kindergarten kid, and I'm 5 or 6, and I thought I had a job, but the job was really daycare. It was Irish daycare. I went to my grandfather's market. Our great grandfather had a, I don't want to call it a chain, but there were three markets, grocery markets, pretty much meat markets. He wouldn't deal with fish because that would go bad too easily, but it was basically meat, beef, pork, chicken. That was it, and some interesting things, potatoes for sure, and we served a whole wide range of people, and it was pretty neat. I thought I had a job at age 5, and it turns out it was really daycare. We had sawdust on the floor, and I had all kinds of things to do. I could spray the windows and clean them with Windex and sweep and do all these things, bag potatoes. And I remember coming up after they set me up in the back to bag a bunch of potatoes. Nobody ever wanted to get a hold of a 50-pound bag of potatoes because there's always some really bad ones in there. And so being the youngest kid, so I'd be the one that get into that. But I remember being confused because Uncle Tom said 5-pound bags and 10-pound
Jeff,
bags.
I'm just going to interrupt you just to remind you, we don't mention food, and even
Okay,
though it's part of the story and it's a great story, I think we
got
have
it.
to stick to that.
All right. A legume of Irish connection. But I wound up learning that it's you weigh the bag. It's not the number of items that go in the bag, and it was that basic. But I was paid 15 cents an hour, and that's really where I got myself in trouble because we lived on a pretty busy street, and where the market was, I had to cross that busy street, and then I could proceed home, which was only about 2 blocks, block and a half. And I passed Pete's Superette, and a food which we won't mention, but it came in a cylindrical package was my wonderful treat to myself. Again, I had two little brothers, and in our family, everything had to be shared. And it's like, I had a problem with that. I was there by myself working with Gramps and my Uncle Tom, and I earned 15 cents an hour. And at the end of the week, I had a pocket full of change that my grandfather gave me. And I immediately went to Pete's Superette, bought one of these items, and then a big indication of something's not right with your eating if you're hiding it. Now, I rationalized hiding it because I didn't want to share it with my two little brothers. Um, I just had this entitled, hey, I earned it. So I'm sitting on the bank of the river. Again, we're next to the Hudson River, and that's what I did in secret. There's a big indicator. Now, I don't think it was really about secrecy at first, but it was about not sharing it with my little brothers. But honestly, it became part of the secret, as well as my dad, who shared with me the key way to get in this glass jar that mom fixed certain things, and they were in this glass jar. But the glass jar, no matter how carefully you lifted the lid, it would have even the slightest ping, which mom was in tune to. And so dad showed me how you could take I don't have something here, but like a dishcloth and hang it over that, totally dampen the ring. So dad was in on it because we were allotted a certain amount of those things, and he wasn't happy with his quota or his ration, and neither was I. So that was kind of early, but I think it sets up a lot of things that secrecy and then there's really a dishonesty there about food, which frankly never spread into other parts of my life, and um, and I'm thankful for that. Um, but I had an unhealthy connection. Now, on Fridays, being Irish Catholics, there's a certain food which was required for Fridays. And so by the time I got home after sitting on the bank of the river and enjoying my little secret thing, um, I showed up and was never quite hungry. And mom just concluded, and this is a big regret I have, she concluded I did not care for that particular form of protein. There was something, I just didn't care for it. I did. I love it. I eat a ton of it these days, um, in appropriate weighed and measured portions. But she just came to that conclusion, and I just kept quiet about it. And I never told my mom. I really wish I had. She's passed, and boy, there's something that we'll square it up in the afterlife, I'm sure. I said, Mom, I'm so sorry. I love X, but I was deceiving you because I'd already had too much. Uh, so in middle school, I was very active, band, um, cross country, rowing. We lived on the Hudson. We weren't supposed to be on the Hudson, but we were on the Hudson. An old rowboat we found and patched up so it didn't sink with my brothers and I in it, and some of the other kids, and just very active. So I maintained a decent 150 pound weight. Um, we walked and bicycled everywhere. I had a band later on, and we played weddings, which the alcohol really flows, and we learned how to have a great time at a wedding with people we never knew, and these two families that converged, around the couple. It just got to be rollickingly great fun. Went to college in a small town in Vermont, upstate Vermont. I couldn't really afford it, but I'd saved enough from my uh, band playing for 1 year. I really noticed there that I was beginning to eat via stress. I wasn't getting all the exercise that I had gotten throughout high school. I was way off from my friends, about 200 miles from where they lived. I was in a dorm room. The cafeteria food was meh. And so I ordered out in the evenings along with the meals, and I missed my friends. And I really do think that was true emotional eating, as I can look at in retrospect. Alcohol and food both were on an upswing. Many others I've listened to their stories. Alcohol was just simply a mechanism, maybe a social mechanism, but it was the same effect. It just transitioned when I joined AA. It's been nearly 40 years. I haven't had a drop since, drugs or alcohol, and food kind of stepped into the breach there, if you would. I got married. Again, I was making much bad decisions. By the time I was in my junior year in college, I was married and had my first son. None of that was planned by me. Um, Full academic load. I was working 30 hours a week, and I really ballooned up. And I really didn't want to weigh when I was at my peak. I'm guessing I was north of 200 pounds. And for a guy who today stands, like really stretched 5'6", uh, that was way too much. And some of it was low budget, high carbs, not healthy. Moved to Louisiana, realized my first wife and I were not really ever meant to be together, but because of my son, now second son, we were. Um, Fast forward a bit, my wife, second wife, really are matched. Um,
That's 5 points,
Slipstream.
Jeff.
Thank you. Uh, I slipstream behind her on a variety of food plans. Um, Macrobiotic, Atkins, I mean, the litany of foods that you all would recognize those plans. Um, I never really quite got it. I did understand just the way when I had tried to stop drinking, if I hadn't had a drink, hadn't had any wine, I was good after 3 days. Much the same with food. If I wasn't getting what we all consider X foods, if my body had cleansed it in its roughly 3 days, I didn't feel it. And it wasn't that hard. But breaking that cycle was difficult. Um, I did join Gray Sheet some time ago after, it was over 20 years ago, after OA, and it just didn't go where it should have for me. So I joined Gray Sheet and for 2 years was rock solid and absolutely abstinent for that time. I did decide to go do something pretty exciting and take a long hike. Could not figure out, and there wasn't anybody in our group that could explain to me how I could manage vegetables. I could dehydrate protein and I could dehydrate fruit. I could carry 5 to 8 days of that, but I couldn't figure out the vegetable piece. So I thought, well, I'll just step away and come right back. And there was a 20-year gap. Um, anyway, so Gray Sheet was the answer, but it took me 20 years to get back. And that's a warning to me and hopefully everybody else that if you take it out and just plan on coming right back, it's not really going to happen. Uh, or it didn't happen for me. I can't tell you what happened for you. The uh, the story of my Uncle Boyd. Recently, I had my 60th class reunion up in upstate New York, Lansingburg, and I live in Texas now. I went back and I had quite an incredibly uh, touching time going back to places where I'd been. And there was one place I used to come down this hill, the Hudson River Valley, river level, right? And we had pretty good hills outside of it. And there was this one hill that I loved flying down on my bicycle. And I had a horrific crash because I had taken my bicycle apart, not put it back together properly, and everything came apart at the worst time, slid across the gravel, across the bar ditch, and across some grass and landed at the base of a hangout where my Uncle Boyd used to sit there at his stool and drink. And he looked out the window or out the door. The door was open, summertime. And he says, "Hey, isn't that Leo's boy?" And I'm laying there really scuffed up, bloody. There aren't helmets back then. And what I'm recognizing is he was covered up with feeling. He covered up his feelings with alcohol. And much like I'd cover up feelings with food. And my experience was that's an unusual thing. Now, it was kind of normal. And I told the story after that. It's kind of funny that Boyd would look down there, and he's my great Uncle Boyd, and say, "Isn't that Leo's boy?" Never got off his stool. There was a lady across the street screaming, like thinking I was dead. And he never got off his stool. He was talking to my other uncle, Jerry, who was sitting on the stool next to him. They recognized who I was, but they were too busy drinking. I wonder how many things I was too busy eating to feel, to see, to sense, to be there, to be present. Like if somebody needs a tourniquet, get off your stool. And so it's been a good 4 years, and I'm enjoying the returned clarity, paying a whole lot of attention to my food and all the things that are gray sheet, and also taking it probably a step further and looking at other things that can cloud our thinking and the level of food and the types of food and what's glycemic and not. And I think there's a lot of that within gray sheet. We can also, I can do better. So with that, I think I shall pass. And I am getting, actually, one last thing. I am busily spending a lot of time in my kitchen because I'm prepping like crazy with the thing we refer to as sawdust and fashioning those into something that works because I've got a
We have 1
15,
minute left.
16-day stretch where I'll be in Scotland and I'm going to be prepared. And with that, I shall pass. Thank you.